final arena combat aptitude evaluation program. This will be the last evaluation.
Main system activating combat mode.
Well, there you have it. Simple as that. This armor core slaps. It slaps real fast. Now, one thing, this is the build that I used to clear the game the first time, and pretty much I stumbled upon it and I just loved it, and it felt so good that I was just like you. When I was reading all those articles, it's not that I am bragging, it's not that I'm a good player. Let me tell you that much is certain. It's not, I am not a good player. The thing is that this thing is just so good. It should also probably get nerfed soon, because we all know Fromsoftware, and yeah, they do like to nerf powerful things real bad. But, well, I was reading all of those articles, people having issues fighting bosses in Armor Core. I was like, dude, this is really not that difficult. And it's not that difficult because of the build that I managed to stumble upon. And, yeah, granted, there's going to be some little things that you're not going to be able to build this thing as ASAP, because some of the pods that I'm using right here for my Armor Core, they are some things that I managed to get throughout the playthrough, but I am going to give you some recommendation on what is it that you can change, what is it that you should be building if you are just starting up the game. I'm going to tell you what is it that you should be looking for this thing to work, but the main thing that we are going to be using is going to be shotties. The shotties, they are just amazing, and the overall core of this build is going to take advantage of the posture damage and then slaps with the one-shots as soon as possible. So the shotties, they are amazing for that. The playstyle of this build is going to be focused being on the face of the enemy, and I learned that being on the face of the enemy in Armor Core 6, it's very, very rewarding. As a matter of fact, I think that should be the primary focus. You should be taking advantage of the verticality and also of the aggressive kind of playstyle that this game has. This is a very, very fast-paced combat system, so yeah, we're taking advantage of that. The thing is that we should be on the face of the enemy while using this build, but if you're going to be on the face of the enemy, you are going to slap so hard. And one thing to have in mind is that throughout the course of the game, you are going to have lots and lots of shotties. Some are going to be amazing, some are not going to be that amazing. You also have, like, for example, the revolvers, as you can see right here. I think that they are an amazing choice if you want to have with a little bit more distance. But overall, you should be focusing on shotties, and this is also another amazing shotty that you have right here. It's very cheap, and I think that this one you can get fairly early on the game. And then we have the Halfman. At the end of the day, I just decide to take. I do not know if you're going to get these guys real soon as you start the game. I think that you do, because I seem to believe. I think that I am under the impression that I was using shotties throughout the course of my playthrough. And yeah, basically what you want to be doing is just be on the face of the enemy, shooting the enemy on the face. Now, one thing that you do need to have in mind is that they are going to have quite a lot of spread, so you're not going to be able to fight with these things from a distance. Pardon the redundancy, but if you feel I think that I need to clarify that thing, because if you feel that the build is not working for you, then probably you're using it from far away, and you shouldn't. You should always be fighting from a distance, which is why we have some concessions and decisions that we are going to have with the generators and our boosters and whatnots, and that is what we're going to be tackling on next. But now we have the railguns, the VECOSNA. Now these bad boys, oh boy, they slap real hard. The other thing is that, well, basically what you're going to be doing is that you're going to be swapping back and forth, because they have similar kind of damage output when it comes to the posture damage and the damage on itself. So you want to clear that posture and then get advantage of the complete hit chance that you have on the enemy, the extra damage while the enemy is on that breaking point. And the damage of the shotties and the damage of these things is very similar. The thing is that these things, you're going to get them at the end of chapter 2 or 3, I can't remember very well. But you also have different amazing options that have quite a lot of firepower, like the plasma lasers. They are actually quite amazing as well. Anything that you can have that has quite a lot of attack power and impact, this is what you're going to want to have right here. But they are also going to use quite a lot of energy, so that is one thing that we are going to have in mind as well. So for the generator, there's actually not going to be that much of room of being able to play with this thing. Most of the generators, because of how we have this thing set up, they are going to cause a energy shortfall, so you are necessarily going to be needing a BP20D, or just go to the armor parts shop and try to look for something that has a lot of energy output, like this one right here. The ones that do not have that much of energy output, they are not going to cut the deal. So you are going to need quite a lot of energy output, meaning you're not going to have that much of a room of being able to breathe on your energy capacity, recharge, supply, recovery. Those are not going to be important. They are important, but for this specific armor core build, you are going to need something that is going to give you energy output instead of the rest of the specs that we are going to be looking for. So those are important, but we don't have the actual means of being able to use them. Now on your FCS, that is going to require something that is going to give you close range assist. We're not going to be using long range. These things are actually quite long range, so if you want to have a kind of a balance in between that, then that is okay, but we're mostly going to be using close range. So if you can get an FCS that is going to be focused on close range, that is going to be the ideal thing. The one that I have right now, this one has medium range. The one that I have right now is the closest one that is going to be as high close range as possible. So that is why I'm using the FC008 Talbot. And then finally, the boosters. The boosters are actually going to be quite interesting and quite important as well, because we're not going to be that fast because of those large things that we have lying right there in the back. So regardless of the energy output and all of the things that we have right here, we want to have one thing: thrust. We want to have thrust, that's what she said, because it is very important to be on the face of the enemy, and thrust is going to allow you to sprint and be on the face of the enemy as possible. One amazing thing to have could also be like possibly having QB thrust. You can also close the gap between the enemy and you with QB thrust. So if you want to have a medium between thrust and QB thrust, then that is something that you can certainly have. Right now, I think that the BST G2 has worked perfectly for me, so this is what I recommend for you to have. Now on the pods, this is actually going to be quite interesting. There's going to be two things that are going to be mainly important. I have the Lux, the Mind Alpha Lux right here, and these things that you have right here, they are quite heavy. As you can see, they take like half of the weights that we have, so yeah. But you also need to be quite nimble. So this is a medium armor core, medium-sized armor core. You want to be nimble because you want to be on the face of the enemy. You're not going to be able to be that fast with this armor core, but you shouldn't be slow with this armor core, because if you're slow, the enemy is always going to be running away from you, and that is no bueno. That is no good, compadre. We want for the enemy to be the EADASAP, and that is why we need to be on the face of the enemy. Now for the legs, I'm using the Mine Alpha. I think that you get this from completing the arenas, but one amazing option that you have, and this is something that you can get early on in the game, is not going to cost you that much of speed, and it's going to actually give you more attitude stability, so that is actually quite nice. It's going to manage your energy that well. The DFLG08 Titan, and mostly the rest of the body parts, if you want to be using the DFLG as well, they are going to be working amazingly well, and this is something that you can get very early on in the game. So yeah. For the rest of them, I'm just using the ELTC, ELTA, and ELPH. Not for any particular reason. At the end of the day, they are not the main things that I should be wanting. The one that I do have for a particular reason is going to be the ELTA 10 for Mecha. The thing is that this is a late game item. I seem to believe. But the reason why we have this thing is because of the firearm specialization. We want to be as accurate on our weapons as possible, and we do have those little things of that. They are actually going to be quite heavy, so that is something that you need to have in mind. But for example, these ones, you can get this as soon as you start the game, the Nachtreiner. I do not know how to pronounce those things, but these ones are going to have even more firearm specialization than the ones that I'm using right now. Although, like I said, I do not want to be that squishy, so I'm using these ones because these ones are going to have a little bit more armor points and then adjustability and defensive performance and what have you. So the Nachtreiner, those are the ones that you can use if you want. I highly do not advise for you to be using something that is not going to have quite a lot of firearm specialization, because that is not going to be bueno. That is not going to be cool. You want to be dealing with all of your shots. Not that you need them that much. At the end of the day, you're not going to be using that much of a distance, but hey, you should always be taking advantage of your locking on, and that is basically how this thing works. So the ideal thing is just to be on the face of the enemy, use your shotties, and then after you have dealt with that armor, you use your side weapons, your bumper weapons, to deal tremendous amounts of damage. I think that these guys are going to get nerfed. Like I said, you can use plasma to replace these ones in the event that you do not have them at the moment. And also, since you are going to be staggering the enemy quite a lot, then it's just basically a game of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You stagger one shot, you stagger one shot, you stagger one shot. And yeah, I mean, the build is just amazing. I love it. It's broken, it's amazing, and it's probably going to get nerfed sometime in the near future. So you might as well take advantage of it right now. If you like the content, so like and very super appreciated. No one told you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel before you close the door. That'll be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.